Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The rain hammered the tin roof, a relentless roar that drowned out the world beyond the small lakeside cabin. Inside, the air was thick with tension, the flickering glow of an oil lamp casting shadows across the wooden walls. Lila Jackson stood inches from Michael Carter, her soaked maxi dress clinging to her curves, the fabric outlining every line of her body in a way that made Michael's breath catch. Her dark eyes shimmered, a storm of anger and longing swirling within them. Droplets of rain slid down her cheek, catching the light like tiny diamonds against her rich brown skin. "I was wrong not to trust you," Lila whispered, her voice barely audible over the downpour. Her turban, vibrant with shades of amber and crimson, was slightly askew, strands of her curly hair escaping to frame her face. Michael's fingers grazed her cheek, trembling as they traced the warmth of her skin. His blazer was drenched, his usually pristine appearance undone by the rain and the weight of the moment. "All I want is you, Lila," he said, his voice low and rough, like gravel underfoot. Their eyes locked, and the space between them vanished. Their kiss ignited, deep and urgent, a collision of need and forgiveness that felt like the world had paused just for them. Lila's hand slid under his shirt, her touch searing against his skin. Clothes slipped to the floor, forgotten in the heat of their embrace. In the press of their bodies, they found a fire that burned away every doubt, every whisper of betrayal that had torn them apart. Her laughter, soft and breathless, mingled with his murmurs, a symphony of rediscovery in the storm's embrace. Lila pulled back just enough to meet his gaze, her lips curving into a playful smirk. "If you hurt me again, I'll toss you into that lake." Michael grinned, his heart pounding like a drum. "I'd rather drown than lose you." The cabin faded as their world narrowed to just them, two souls finding solace in the chaos. But this wasn't where their story began. To understand how they got here, we need to go back to a wrong train, a small town, and a chance encounter that changed everything. 3 days earlier, Michael Carter sat on a rattling Amtrak train, his phone pressed to his ear as Seattle's skyline faded behind him. The 35-year-old CEO of Horizon Tech was a vision of modern success, sharp blazer over dark jeans, a Patek Philippe watch glinting on his wrist, and a jawline that could have been chiseled for a magazine cover. But beneath the polished exterior, he was fraying. His childhood in Seattle's roughest neighborhoods, where hunger was a constant companion, had driven him to build an empire, but the cost was a gnawing emptiness no penthouse could fill. "Tell me we're containing this," Michael snapped into his phone, his voice clipped as he spoke to his CFO. A financial scandal was brewing at Horizon, whispers of insider trading that could tank the company he'd poured his life into. The stress was a vice around his chest, squeezing tighter with every email that pinged into his inbox. "We're trying, Mike, but the press is sniffing around," his CFO replied. "You need to be at that conference in Portland. Charm the investors. Keep them calm." Michael rubbed his temple, glancing out the window. The urban sprawl had given way to rolling hills and golden oak trees, the kind of scenery you'd see on a postcard. Wait, hills? This wasn't the high-speed route to Portland. His stomach dropped as he checked his ticket. "Son of a," he muttered, realizing he'd boarded the wrong train in his rush. Instead of a sleek express, he was on a slow, creaky line heading to some nowhere town called Willow Creek, Oregon. He ended the call, frustration bubbling as he scanned the train car. The seats were faded, the wood paneling straight out of the 80s, a far cry from the first-class cabins he was used to. The other passengers, a mix of retirees and flannel-clad locals, paid him no mind, their chatter about harvest festivals and apple pies filling the air. Michael's fingers drummed on his armrest, his mind racing with missed meetings and looming deadlines. Great. Just what I need. A detour to Hicksville. Hours later, the train screeched to a halt at Willow Creek's tiny station. Michael stepped onto the platform, the crisp fall air hitting him like a wake-up call. The town was a picture of small-town America. Cobblestone streets lined with mom-and-pop shops, leaves swirling in the breeze, and the faint twang of country music drifting from somewhere nearby. A faded sign read, "Welcome to Willow Creek, home of the Harvest Moon Festival." It was charming, sure, but Michael felt like a fish out of water, his designer shoes clicking awkwardly on the uneven stones. He checked his phone. No signal. Perfect, he grumbled, shoving it into his pocket. A quick check with the station attendant confirmed his worst fear. No trains back to Seattle until after the festival, 3 days from now. With no choice but to stay, Michael slung his leather duffel over his shoulder and wandered into town, hoping to find a decent hotel and maybe a bar to drown his frustrations. The streets of Willow Creek buzzed with pre-festival energy. Lanterns were being strung across lampposts, and vendors set up booths selling everything from homemade jams to carved pumpkins. The air carried the sweet scent of apple pie and the smoky tang of wood fires, a far cry from Seattle's coffee shops and exhaust fumes. Locals in flannel jackets and cowboy boots moved with an unhurried ease, their laughter echoing like they had all the time in the world. Michael, used to the relentless pace of boardrooms, felt like he'd stepped into a different century. His eyes caught a sign, Pages and Soul Bookstore. Desperate for Wi-Fi to check on his company, he pushed open the door, a bell jingling above him. The shop was a cozy haven, shelves packed with books from Toni Morrison to local poetry, vinyl records spinning Aretha Franklin's soulful voice in the background. The walls were adorned with vibrant art, and a faint scent of lavender lingered, soothing despite Michael's agitation. Behind the counter stood Lila Jackson, a 32-year-old woman whose presence filled the room like sunlight. Her dark skin glowed under the soft lighting, and her maxi dress, paired with a crimson and amber turban, gave her an effortless elegance. She was arranging a display of books, humming along to Respect, when she glanced up at Michael. Her brown eyes sparkled with curiosity, and a playful smirk tugged at her lips. "Lost city boy?" she asked, her voice warm but teasing. "You look like you just wandered off a Rolex ad." Michael blinked, caught off guard by her directness. Most people he met were either intimidated by his wealth or fawning over it. Lila was neither. Yeah, something like that," he said, forcing a smile. "Got Wi-Fi in here? I need to check some emails." Lila raised an eyebrow, leaning on the counter. "Wi-Fi's for customers. Buy a book, and I'll think about it. Are you planning to flash some cash and buy the whole town?" He chuckled, her sass disarming him. "Tempting, but I'm just trying to survive until the next train. Wrong platform, wrong life choices." He scanned the shop, noticing a stack of books on Oregon folklore. "All right, I'll take one of those. And the Wi-Fi password." She grinned, sliding a book toward him. "Deal. Password's Soul Reader 69. Don't judge." As she rang up the sale, Michael felt a flicker of something he hadn't in years. Ease. Lila's confidence, her unapologetic vibe, was like a breath of fresh air in his suffocating world. But the moment was fleeting. As he left the bookstore, he caught whispers from passers-by. "Another rich guy sniffing around," an older woman muttered, her eyes narrowing. "Probably here to buy up our land." Michael turned, recognizing her as Edna Walsh, a local elder whose sharp tongue was legendary in Willow Creek. She clutched a basket of apples, glaring at him like he was the devil in a blazer. "Ma'am, I'm just passing through," Michael said, raising his hands defensively. "Wrong train, that's all." Edna snorted. "That's what they all say. Last city slicker like you promised a park and left us with nothing but lies." She stalked off, leaving Michael unsettled. The town's history with a shady developer had clearly left scars, and he was paying the price for sins he didn't commit. He checked into the Willow Inn, a quaint bed and breakfast with creaky floors and floral wallpaper. The owner, a kindly woman named Martha, was polite but distant, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Festival starts tomorrow," she said, handing him a key. "Best stay out of trouble." The subtext was clear. "We're watching you." That evening, Michael sat at the inn's small bar, nursing a whiskey and scrolling through emails on his barely functional phone. The scandal at Horizon was worsening. His CFO warned of a potential boardroom coup. His head throbbed, the weight of his empire pressing down. He was used to control, to fixing problems with a signature or a deal. But here, in Willow Creek, he was powerless, a stranger in a town that didn't trust him. His thoughts drifted to Lila, her laugh, the way she teased him without a hint of awe at his wealth. It was refreshing, almost grounding. He hadn't felt that kind of spark in years, not since he'd buried himself in work to escape his past. But what was the point? She was a small-town bookseller, and he was a CEO with a crisis on his hands, worlds apart. Yet, as he stepped outside, the festival preparations caught his eye. Lanterns glowed along Main Street, their light dancing on the cobblestones. The air was alive with the promise of music, food, and community, things Michael had long forgotten how to savor. He thought of Lila's invitation to join the festival tomorrow, her playful challenge. "Bet you can't handle a small-town party, city boy?" Maybe she was right. Maybe, just for a few days, he could forget the emails, the scandal, the weight of his life. But the whispers followed him, Edna's words echoing in his mind. Willow Creek didn't want him here, and the rumors were already spreading, rumors that would soon collide with a scheming bartender named Tara and a lie that could shatter everything. Michael took a deep breath, the fall air cool against his skin. He was stuck in Willow Creek, whether he liked it or not, and something told him this wrong train might just lead him somewhere he never expected. Hey, if you're hooked on Michael and Lila's story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment about a time you got lost and found something magical. Maybe it was a place, a person, or just a moment that changed you. Your support keeps these heartfelt tales coming, and we can't wait to share the rest of this journey with you. Willow Creek came alive under the golden glow of the Harvest Moon Festival, its cobblestone streets transformed into a tapestry of light and sound. Lanterns swayed from lampposts, their amber flickers dancing across storefronts adorned with pumpkins and hay bales. The air was thick with the scent of fresh-baked apple pies, cinnamon-dusted cider, and the faint smokiness of bonfires crackling in the distance. Locals in flannel jackets and worn boots mingled at booths, their laughter blending with the twang of a country band tuning up on a makeshift stage. Kids darted through the crowd, clutching caramel apples, their faces painted with grinning jack-o'-lanterns. It was the kind of small-town magic that felt like a warm hug, if you belonged. Michael Carter, still stuck in Willow Creek thanks to a wrong train, didn't belong. His sleek blazer and designer jeans screamed Seattle, and every step he took drew curious glances from the festival-goers. He adjusted his collar, feeling like a tourist in a foreign land. The weight of his company's financial scandal lingered in his mind, a constant buzz of emails he couldn't answer without a decent signal. But for now, he was here, drawn by the festival's pull and a certain bookseller's playful challenge. Lila Jackson had texted him that morning a simple, "Meet me at the festival, city boy. Bet you can't handle it." Her words, laced with that teasing edge, had stuck with him. He wasn't sure why he'd said yes. Maybe it was the way her smile had cut through his stress yesterday. Or maybe he just needed a break from being Michael Carter, CEO. Either way, as he wove through the bustling crowd, his eyes scanned for her vibrant turban among the sea of cowboy hats. He spotted her at a booth selling hand-carved wooden trinkets, her laughter ringing out as she chatted with a vendor. Lila's mustard yellow maxi dress flowed with her movements, a turquoise turban catching the lantern light like a crown. She was magnetic, her confidence filling the space around her. Michael hesitated, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked next to her effortless ease. "Hey, you made it!" Lila called, waving him over. Her brown eyes sparkled with mischief. "I half expected you to hide in your hotel, crying into your spreadsheets." Michael grinned, shoving his hands in his pockets. "Tempting, but I figured I'd see what this small-town hype's about. So far, it's a lot of pumpkins." "Pumpkins are a lifestyle, city boy," she shot back, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the heart of the festival. "Come on, let's see if you can keep up." Her touch was casual, but it sent a jolt through Michael, like a spark he hadn't felt in years. He let her lead him through the crowd, her enthusiasm infectious. They stopped at a ring toss booth where Lila handed him a stack of plastic rings with a challenging smirk. "Show me what you got, CEO. Win me a prize, and I might let you hang with the cool kids." Michael raised an eyebrow, taking the rings. "Piece of cake. I've closed multi-million-dollar deals. I can handle a carnival game." He aimed for a bottle, tossing with confidence, only to miss spectacularly, the ring clattering onto a stack of prizes and knocking over a stuffed bear. The booth operator, a grizzled man in overalls, burst out laughing. "Smooth," Lila said, doubling over. "You run a company, but you can't hit a bottle? My grandma's got better aim." Michael's cheeks flushed, but he couldn't help laughing too. "All right, give me another shot. I'm warming up." He tried again and again, each toss worse than the last, until he accidentally sent a ring flying into a nearby pie stand. The crowd around them chuckled, and Lila was practically wheezing. "Oh my God, you're a walking disaster!" she gasped, wiping tears from her eyes. "I'm putting this on TikTok." Zoe Parker, Lila's best friend and the town's resident baker, appeared with a tray of apple fritters, catching the tail end of Michael's fiasco. Her curly red hair bounced as she shook her head, grinning. "Y'all, this guy's gonna need a miracle to survive Willow Creek. Here, try one of these. Careful, they're spicy." She handed Michael a fritter, her green eyes twinkling with amusement. Michael, determined to redeem himself, took a big bite and immediately regretted it. The fritter was laced with chili, and his face turned red as he coughed, grabbing Lila's cider to douse the fire. Zoe snapped a photo, cackling. "This is going viral, city boy. Hashtag CEO versus fritter." Lila patted his back, her laughter softening into a warm smile. "You're a good sport. I'll give you that. Come on, let's find something you're not terrible at." As they wandered deeper into the festival, Michael felt the knot in his chest loosen. Lila's banter, the festival's energy, the sheer normalcy of it all. It was a world away from boardrooms and scandals. They stopped at a cider tasting booth where Lila insisted he try a local brew called Moonshine Apple. The drink was sweet and sharp, warming his throat as Lila clinked her glass against his. "To wrong trains and new adventures," she said, her eyes holding his a moment longer than necessary. "To surviving your torture," Michael replied, his grin widening. The cider buzzed through him, and for the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about Horizon Tech or the emails piling up. But the festival wasn't all warmth and laughter. Michael caught sidelong glances from locals, their whispers trailing him like shadows. "That's the rich guy," a man in a trucker hat muttered to his friend. "Bet he's here to buy up our land just like that last jerk." The word stung, reminding Michael of Edna Walsh's warning yesterday. Willow Creek had been burned before. A developer had promised a community park, only to push for a luxury resort that would have gutted the town's charm. The betrayal lingered, and Michael, with his polished look and city swagger, was an easy target. Lila noticed his tension, nudging his shoulder. "Ignore them. Small towns love their gossip. Give it a day, and they'll be whispering about someone else's drama." "Easy for you to say," Michael said, forcing a smile. You're basically the mayor of this place. I'm just the guy who doesn't belong." She tilted her head, studying him. "You don't belong yet. Stick around and maybe you'll surprise them, or at least stop throwing rings like a toddler." He laughed, her teasing pulling him back to the moment. But before he could respond, a new figure approached, her presence cutting through the festival like a blade. Tara Brooks, Lila's old high school friend and Willow Creek's most notorious flirt, sauntered up in a leather dress that hugged her curves like a second skin. Her blonde hair gleamed under the lanterns, and her red lips curled into a smile that was more predator than friend. Michael's watch caught her eye, a Patek Philippe worth more than most cars in town, and her gaze sharpened. "Well, well, who's this?" Tara purred, leaning closer than necessary. "Lila, you been hiding the good stuff from me? I'm Tara, by the way. I sling drinks at Moonlit Tap." Michael nodded, polite but guarded. "Michael, just passing through." "Oh, honey, nobody just passes through Willow Creek," Tara said, her voice dripping with charm. She tossed her hair, her eyes flicking to Lila. "You showing him the ropes, or am I going to have to steal him for a dance?" Lila's smile tightened, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. "He's all yours if he can survive your whiskey pours. Go easy on him, Tara." Tara laughed, a sound that was all show. "No promises." She winked at Michael, lingering just long enough to make her intentions clear before sashaying toward the bar booth. Michael raised an eyebrow at Lila. "Friend of yours?" "More like a hurricane I survive," Lila said, rolling her eyes. "Tara's got a thing for shiny objects. Watches, wallets, you name it. Watch your back." "Noted," Michael said, though he couldn't shake the feeling that Tara was already plotting something. Her interest felt less like flirtation and more like a transaction. As dusk settled, the festival's energy shifted. The country band struck up a slow ballad, and couples drifted to the dance floor, a cleared patch of grass under a canopy of lanterns. Caleb Reed, a lanky musician with a guitar and a voice like whiskey, led the tune, his eyes occasionally flicking to Lila. Michael noticed, a twinge of jealousy surprising him. "Get a grip, Carter. You've known her for a day." Lila grabbed his hand, her touch sparking that jolt again. "Come on, city boy. You owe me a dance for that ring-toss disaster." Michael hesitated, his CEO confidence nowhere to be found. "I'm not exactly Fred Astaire." "Good. I'd rather have you than some stuffy dancer." She pulled him to the floor, her smile daring him to keep up. The music wrapped around them, Caleb's guitar strumming a melody that felt like a heartbeat. Lila's hand rested on Michael's shoulder, her warmth grounding him as they swayed. Her vanilla scent mingled with the crisp fall air, and under the lanterns, her eyes held a softness that made his chest ache. For a moment, the whispers, the scandal, the town's distrust, it all faded. It was just them, moving in sync, the world shrinking to the space between their breaths. "You're not half bad," Lila said, her voice low. "For a guy who probably dances with his laptop," Michael chuckled, his hand tightening slightly on her waist. "And you're not bad for a bookseller who's clearly the queen of this town." "Flattery won't get you Wi-Fi again," she teased, but her smile was genuine, her gaze lingering. The dance was their high point, a fleeting bubble of connection that felt like it could last forever. But bubbles burst. As the song ended, Michael caught Edna Walsh's glare from the crowd, her arms crossed. Nearby, a group of locals whispered, their words carrying just enough to sting. "He's got to be here for the land. Why else would a guy like that show up?" Lila tensed, her hand slipping from his. "They're just scared," she said, but her voice was quieter now, the weight of their judgment pressing in. Michael's jaw tightened. "Scared of what? I'm not the bad guy here." "I know," Lila said, but her eyes flickered with doubt. "It's just, this town's been through a lot. That last developer left scars. Give them time. Time's the one thing I don't have, Michael muttered, thinking of the emails piling up, the scandal waiting to explode. He wanted to stay in this moment with Lila, but the whispers were growing louder, and he could feel the town closing ranks. As they stepped off the dance floor, Tara reappeared, a tray of drinks in hand. "Y'all looked cute out there," she said, her smile too sweet. "Michael, come by Moonlit Tap later. I make a mean whiskey sour, and you look like you need to loosen up." Lila shot her a look, but Tara just winked and vanished into the crowd. Michael sensed trouble in her wake, a storm brewing he couldn't yet see. The festival's warmth was fading, replaced by the chill of suspicion. Edna's voice carried from a nearby booth. "I heard he was on the phone talking about buying up half the creek. Mark my words, he's trouble." The rumor was small now, a spark in the dry grass of Willow Creek's distrust. But sparks spread fast, and Tara Brooks was already fanning the flames, her eyes on Michael's wealth and her mind on chaos. For Michael and Lila, the dance was just the beginning, a moment of light before the shadows crept in. The Harvest Moon Festival had painted Willow Creek in shades of gold and warmth, but by the second night, a chill settled over the town that had nothing to do with the crisp Oregon air. The lanterns still glowed, the country music still played, and the scent of apple cider lingered, but an undercurrent of suspicion ran through the cobblestone streets. Michael Carter, the Seattle CEO who'd stumbled into this small-town world by mistake, felt it everywhere he went. The whispers that had started as murmurs, rumors of him scheming to buy up Willow Creek's land, had grown louder, fueled by the town's scars from a past betrayal. And now, a new spark was about to ignite a fire, one that would test the fragile connection he'd found with Lila Jackson. Michael woke in his room at the Willow Inn, his head pounding from the whiskey Tara Brooks had poured him at Moonlit Tap the night before. The bar had been a blur of laughter, clinking glasses, and Tara's relentless flirting, her red lips and tight dress impossible to ignore. He vaguely remembered her leaning close, her perfume overwhelming. But after that, it was a blank. He'd stumbled back to the inn, alone, he was sure of it, and passed out fully clothed. Now, as he splashed cold water on his face, he tried to piece together the night. Too much whiskey. Not enough sense, he thought, cursing himself for letting his guard down. His phone buzzed with another email from his CFO. "Board's panicking. You need to get back to Seattle ASAP." The financial scandal at Horizon Tech was spiraling, with rumors of insider trading threatening to tank the company. Michael's stomach churned, the pressure of his empire clashing with the strange pull of Willow Creek. He wasn't supposed to care about this town, about its festivals or its people, yet Lila's face, her sharp wit, her radiant smile, kept creeping into his thoughts, a distraction he couldn't afford. He headed to Brew and Banter, the town's cozy coffee shop, hoping a strong black coffee would clear his head. The shop was a haven of mismatched armchairs, exposed brick walls, and the rich aroma of roasted beans. Frank Sullivan, the grizzled owner and former engineer, stood behind the counter polishing a mug with a rag. His gray beard and flannel shirt made him look like he'd stepped out of a lumberjack ad, but his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. "Morning, city boy," Frank said, sliding a coffee toward Michael. "Heard you had a wild night at Tara's bar. Hope you're still standing." Michael groaned, rubbing his temples. "Barely. That woman's whiskey is lethal. Don't suppose you've got aspirin back there?" Frank chuckled, but his expression turned serious. "Watch yourself with Tara. She's got a knack for stirring up trouble. And folks around here are already talking about you." Michael frowned, sipping the coffee. It was strong, bitter, grounding. "Talking about what? The land-buying nonsense? I'm just a guy who took the wrong train." Frank leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Doesn't matter. Edna's got half the town convinced you're here to turn Willow Creek into a strip mall. And after last night..." He trailed off, glancing at the door as a customer entered. "Last night what?" Michael pressed, his gut tightening. Frank hesitated, then shrugged. "Just rumors. Small towns, you know. They'll chew you up if you're not careful." Michael's unease grew, but before he could ask more, the bell above the door jingled, and Zoe Parker burst in, her red curls bouncing. She carried a tray of pastries from her bakery, her green eyes wide with what Michael was starting to recognize as her trademark gossip mode. "Michael, you're in deep now," Zoe said, plopping the tray on the counter. "Tara's been spilling the tea all morning. Says you and her had let's call it a memorable night at the inn." Michael nearly choked on his coffee. "What? That's insane. I was so drunk I could barely walk. Nothing happened." Zoe raised an eyebrow, smirking. "That's not what she's telling everyone. She's at the bakery right now, bragging about how she tamed the Seattle hotshot. Her words, not mine." Frank snorted, shaking his head. "Tara's always been a drama magnet, but folks will believe her, especially with you being, you know, Mr. Moneybags." Michael's jaw clenched. Tara's lie wasn't just a petty rumor. It was a match tossed into the dry grass of Willow Creek's distrust. He could already imagine the whispers spreading, twisting his every move into proof of his city slicker villainy. Worse, he thought of Lila. Would she hear this? Would she believe it? He didn't have to wait long to find out. As he left Brew and Banter, he spotted Lila across the street, arranging a festival book display outside Pages and Soul. Her turquoise turban gleamed in the morning sun, but her usual warmth was gone. She was talking to a customer, an older woman who shot Michael a pointed look before whispering something to Lila. Lila's face tightened, her eyes flicking toward him, sharp and guarded. Michael's heart sank. He crossed the street, dodging a kid with a painted pumpkin, and approached her. "Lila, can we talk?" She turned, arms crossed, her expression a wall. "Talk about what, Michael? Your big night with Tara? Because apparently the whole town knows." The words hit like a punch. "Lila, that's not true," he said, his voice urgent. "I drank too much, yeah, but nothing happened. I swear. Tara's making it up." Lila's eyes narrowed, searching his face. "You expect me to believe that? You were at her bar, hammered, and now she's telling everyone you two hooked up. Sounds pretty convenient for you to just not remember." Michael's frustration flared, but he kept his tone steady. "I'm telling you, I passed out alone. I don't know why she's lying, but I'd never do that to you. Not after—" He trailed off, the memory of their dance under the lanterns flashing through his mind. That moment had felt real, like a lifeline in his chaotic world. Lila's expression softened for a split second, but the hurt in her eyes was raw. "You don't get it, Michael. This town's already got me under a microscope because I'm with you. They're saying I'm chasing your money, that I'm some kind of—" She stopped, her voice cracking. "I fought too hard to be seen as more than that. And now this? I can't deal with it." Michael's chest tightened. He hadn't realized how deep the town's prejudice ran, not just against him, but against Lila. The whispers weren't just about his supposed land grabbing. They were about her too, laced with ugly assumptions about a black woman daring to connect with a wealthy outsider. "Lila, I'm sorry," he said, stepping closer. "I didn't know it was hitting you like this. Let me fix it." She shook her head, stepping back. "You can't fix this, Michael. Not with your money or your charm. Maybe you should just go back to Seattle. It'd be easier for everyone." Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened, betraying the pain she was trying to hide. "Lila, please," he started, but she turned away, busying herself with the books. The dismissal was clear, and it cut deeper than any boardroom rejection he'd ever faced. Michael stood there, the festival's cheer mocking him. The crowd bustled around, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. He wanted to chase after her, to make her believe him, but the weight of her words held him back. Easier for everyone? Maybe she was right. His life was in Seattle, with a company on the brink and a scandal ready to explode. Willow Creek was a detour, a mistake. So why did leaving feel like giving up on something vital? As he wandered back toward the inn, the whispers followed. At a cider booth, 2 men in flannel jackets muttered, "Heard he's buying up the lakefront, gonna turn it into condos." A woman selling quilts shot him a dirty look, her voice low. And messing around with Tara? Typical rich guy. Michael's fists clenched, but he kept walking, the rumors wrapping around him like a noose. Back at Moonlit Tap, Tara Brooks was in her element, leaning over the bar as she served drinks and gossip in equal measure. The dimly lit space hummed with festival-goers, the jukebox blaring a Luke Bryan tune. Tara's leather dress hugged her curves, and her blonde hair fell in calculated waves, every move designed to draw eyes. She'd seen Michael's watch, his tailored blazer, the way he carried himself like money was no object. To her, he was a ticket out of Willow Creek, and she wasn't about to let Lila or anyone stand in her way. "So, spill the tea," a regular named Jenny said, sipping a cocktail. "You and that city guy, for real?" Tara smirked, tossing her hair. "Oh, honey, let's just say Michael Carter couldn't keep his hands off me. Took him back to the inn and, well..." She trailed off, letting the implication hang, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Zoe Parker, who'd slipped into the bar to grab a drink, overheard and rolled her eyes. "You sure about that, Tara? 'Cause I saw him stumbling out of here, drunk as a skunk, calling his whiskey merger terms. Doesn't sound like a guy ready for romance." Tara's smile faltered, but she recovered fast. "Believe what you want, Zoe. I know what happened." She turned to another customer, her voice louder now, ensuring her story spread. Zoe frowned, her instincts tingling. She'd known Tara since high school, knew her flair for drama and her hunger for attention. Something about this didn't add up, but the damage was done. The rumor was out, weaving through Willow Creek like wildfire, and Lila was caught in the crossfire. Meanwhile, Lila sat alone in Pages and Soul, the shop's warmth doing little to ease the ache in her chest. She'd closed early, unable to face the festival's chatter. The books around her, stories of love, courage, and triumph, felt like cruel irony. She'd left Portland to escape the subtle racism, the constant need to prove herself. But here it was again, dressed in small-town whispers. Gold digger, they'd called her, as if her connection with Michael could only be about his wallet. And now Tara's story, true or not, was a knife in her back. She thought of Michael's earnest eyes, his clumsy charm during their dance. He'd seemed different, like someone who saw her, not just the bookseller or the black woman in a small town. But maybe she'd been naive. Maybe he was just another city guy passing through, leaving chaos in his wake. Her phone buzzed. A text from Zoe. "Tara's full of it. I don't buy her story. Talk to Michael." Lila stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Trust was a fragile thing, and hers was bruised. But Zoe's words planted a seed of doubt, not in Michael, but in Tara's tale. Across town, Michael sat on the inn's porch, the festival's distant music a faint echo. His phone buzzed again. "Board meeting tomorrow. You need to be here." The scandal was closing in, a ticking clock he couldn't ignore. He should leave, catch the next train, and save his company. But Lila's face, her hurt, her strength, it anchored him. He wasn't ready to give up, not yet. He needed answers, and Tara was the key. With Frank's warning about her troublemaking ringing in his ears, Michael resolved to stay, to fight for the truth. But the rumors were spreading, and the town's prejudice was a wall he'd have to climb. For Lila, for himself, he'd have to find a way through, or risk losing the one thing that felt Willow Creek's Harvest Moon Festival should have been a beacon of warmth. its lanterns and apple pies a celebration of community. But by the third day, the town felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. The cobblestone streets, once inviting, now seemed to pulse with suspicion, every glance from a local laced with judgment. Michael Carter, the Seattle CEO who'd stumbled into this small-town world, was no longer just an outsider. He was the enemy. The rumors that had started as whispers about him buying up land, about his supposed fling with Tara Brooks, had hardened into gospel, fueled by Willow Creek's deep-seated distrust of the wealthy. And for Lila Jackson, caught in the crossfire, the festival's cheer was a cruel backdrop to her growing isolation. Michael woke to a gray dawn, the Willow Inn's floral curtains doing little to soften the weight in his chest. His phone was a battlefield of notifications, emails from his CFO screaming about Horizon Tech's financial scandal, texts from his assistant begging him to return to Seattle, and a news alert hinting at a federal probe into his company. The words blurred together, each one a reminder of the empire he was losing. But it was Lila's face, her hurt, her dismissal, that haunted him most. Her words, "Maybe you should just go back to Seattle," echoed like a verdict he couldn't shake. He dragged himself to brew and banter, hoping Frank Sullivan's coffee could jolt him out of his spiral. The coffee shop was quieter than usual, its mismatched armchairs half empty as festival-goers nursed hangovers or prepped for the final night. Frank, wiping down the counter, gave Michael a wary nod. His gray beard and flannel shirt were as much a fixture of Willow Creek as the oak trees, but his usual warmth was tempered by caution. "Rough morning, city boy?" Frank asked, sliding a steaming mug across the counter. "Heard the town hall's buzzing about you. Doesn't sound good." Michael's jaw tightened, his fingers wrapping around the mug. The coffee's bitter heat was grounding, but it couldn't burn away the frustration. "Let me guess. More talk about me turning this place into a condo farm? Or is it Tara's story now?" Frank leaned closer, his voice low. "Both. Edna's rallying folks for a meeting tonight. Says you're a clear and present danger to Willow Creek. And Tara's still flapping her gums about your big night together. She's got half the town eating out of her hand." Michael's stomach churned. Tara's lie, that they'd hooked up after a drunken night at Moonlit Tap, wasn't just gossip. It was a weapon, tearing at his connection with Lila and fueling the town's hatred. "It's all bull, Frank. I was too wasted to even stand, let alone whatever she's claiming. Why's she doing this?" Frank shrugged, his eyes sharp. "Tara's always chased shiny things. Your watch, your wallet. She sees a ticket out of this town. But you're an easy target. Rich guy, big city. Fits the villain mold." Michael rubbed his temples, the weight of it all pressing down. He'd built a tech empire from nothing, faced down boardroom sharks and market crashes. But this small-town drama was a different beast. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Lila, about the way the town's prejudice was hurting her too. He'd overheard the whispers at the festival, the ugly jabs about her chasing his money, laced with assumptions about her as a black woman. The thought made his blood boil. "I need to fix this," he said, more to himself than Frank. "For Lila. She doesn't deserve this." Frank's expression softened, just a fraction. "You care about her, don't you? Well, good luck. This town's got a long memory, and you're up against it." As Michael left the coffee shop, the festival's final preparations were in full swing. Booths were being restocked, banners strung across Main Street proclaiming Harvest Moon forever, but new signs had appeared, hand-painted and angry. "No investors welcome," and "Keep Willow Creek ours." They were a gut punch, each one aimed at him. He caught a group of locals glaring from a cider stand, their voices low but cutting. "He's probably got lawyers on speed dial, ready to snatch our land." Michael kept his head down, but the rejection stung. He wasn't the developer who'd screwed this town over years ago, but to Willow Creek, he was close enough, his polished blazer, his expensive watch. They were proof of guilt in their eyes. He thought of Lila, of her warning about the town's scars. She'd been right, but he hadn't realized how deep those scars ran, or how they'd turn on her, too. At Pages and Soul, Lila was restocking shelves, her movements mechanical. The bookstore, usually her sanctuary, felt suffocating today. The festival's music drifted through the open window, but it couldn't drown out the whispers she'd overheard at the bakery. She's just after his cash. Think she'll follow him to Seattle? The words were a knife, slicing at the life she'd built in Willow Creek. She'd left Portland to escape the subtle racism, the constant need to prove her worth, but here it was again, dressed in small-town gossip. Zoe Parker burst through the door, her red curls bouncing as she carried a box of donuts. "Lila, you look like you're about to burn this place down. What's going on?" Lila sighed, setting down a stack of books. "Just the usual. Town thinks I'm a gold digger. Tara's spreading lies about Michael, and I'm wondering if I should just pack up and go back to Portland." Zoe's eyes widened, and she set the box down with a thud. "Whoa, hold up. You're not going anywhere. Those folks are just jealous because you're the coolest person in this town. And Tara? She's full of it. I was at the bar. She was all over Michael, but he was so drunk he called his drink merger terms. No way anything happened." Lila's lips twitched, a flicker of amusement breaking through her gloom. "Merger terms? That sounds like him." But her smile faded. "I want to believe him, Zoe. But with everyone talking, it's hard to know what's real. And the way they're looking at me, like I'm betraying the town by even talking to him." Zoe sat on the counter, grabbing a donut. "Screw 'em. You've done nothing but give to this place. Your shop, your book clubs, your soul. If they can't see that, it's their loss. But Michael? He's not the bad guy here. You should talk to him." Lila shook her head, her turban catching the light. "I told him to leave. Maybe it's better that way. For both of us." Across town, Michael faced his own gauntlet. He stopped at a general store for a bottle of water, only to have the clerk, a wiry man with a handlebar mustache, cross his arms and say, "We don't serve your kind here. Take your money somewhere else." Michael's patience snapped, but he bit back a retort, walking out with his fists clenched. The town's rejection was a wall, and he was running out of ways to climb it. His phone buzzed again, this time with a call from his CFO. "Mike, where the hell are you? The board's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. If you're not here, they'll vote you out. This scandal's about to blow." Michael's head throbbed, the festival's music a mocking backdrop. "I'm handling it," he lied, ending the call. Handling it. He was drowning between the company, the town, and Lila. He sat on a bench by the lake, the water's surface reflecting the gray sky. Willow Creek was supposed to be a detour, a mistake, so why did it feel like the only place that mattered? His thoughts were interrupted by Tara Brooks, who appeared like a storm cloud in a leather skirt and heels that clicked on the pavement. Her smile was all teeth, her eyes glinting with calculation. "Hey, stranger," she said, leaning against a tree, her posture designed to draw attention. "Miss me?" Michael's patience was threadbare. "Tara, what's your deal? Why are you telling people we hooked up? You know that's a lie," she pouted, twirling a strand of hair. "A lie? Come on. You were all over me at the bar. Don't play innocent." Her voice was syrupy, but her eyes were cold, sizing him up like a prize. "I was drunk out of my mind," Michael snapped. "I didn't touch you, and you know it. You're hurting people. Lila, me, this whole town. Stop it." Tara's smile didn't waver, but her tone sharpened. "Hurting people? I'm just giving them what they want. A story. And you? You're not exactly innocent, Mr. Big Shot. Everyone knows you're here to buy up our land." Why else would you stick around? Michael stood, his anger flaring. I'm here because I took the wrong damn train. That's it. And if you keep pushing this lie, you're gonna regret it. She laughed, a sound that grated like nails on a chalkboard. Regret? Honey, I'm just getting started. She sauntered off, her heels clicking, leaving Michael seething. That evening, the town hall meeting was a powder keg. Edna Walsh stood at the front of the packed room, her silver hair pulled tight, her voice booming. We've seen this before, folks. A rich outsider promising the world, then stealing our home. This Carter fella's no different. I say we run him out before he ruins Willow Creek. The crowd roared, banners waving. No investors welcome. Michael, standing at the back, felt every eye on him. A stranger in a room of allies. He wanted to speak, to tell them they were wrong. But the hostility was a wall he couldn't breach. Lila wasn't there. She'd stayed away, her absence a fresh wound. As he slipped out, he overheard a new rumor, one that stopped him cold. Heard he sent an email to the council, offering millions for the lakefront. Michael's blood ran cold. An email? He hadn't sent anything, but the lie was too specific, too calculated. Was it Tara? Or something bigger? Maybe a rival in Seattle, using the town to sabotage him? The scandal at Horizon flashed through his mind, the pieces clicking into place. Someone was playing dirty, and he was caught in the middle. Michael's world was crumbling. Lila didn't trust him. The town wanted him gone, and his company was on the brink. He sat by the lake again, the moon hidden behind clouds, the festival's final night a distant hum. He'd faced down crises before, but this felt different, personal, raw. He thought of Lila, her strength, her hurt. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for her, for the chance at something real. Then, a text from Zoe lit up his phone. Found a guy at the bar who saw Tara that night. She's lying. Meet me tomorrow. A spark of hope flickered, small but fierce. Michael gripped his phone, resolve hardening. Tara's lie was the key, and he'd tear it apart, piece by piece. But the town's prejudice was a mountain, and time was running out. For Lila, for Willow Creek, for himself. He had to find a way to break through or lose everything that mattered. The final night of the Harvest Moon Festival bathed Willow Creek in a golden haze, its lanterns casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets. The air was alive with the scent of caramel apples, wood smoke, and the faint tang of cider, while the country band's upbeat twang echoed from the main stage. Locals in flannel and boots danced under the stars, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension that had gripped the town for days. For Michael Carter, the Seattle CEO who'd become Willow Creek's scapegoat, the festival was no celebration. It was a battlefield. The rumors about him buying land and hooking up with Tara Brooks had turned the town against him, and the woman he cared about, Lila Jackson, had pushed him away. But tonight, with a spark of hope from an unexpected ally, Michael was ready to fight for the truth. The day had started with a flicker of light in the darkness. Zoe Parker's text from the night before. Found a guy at the bar who saw Tara that night. She's lying. Had given Michael something he hadn't felt in days. A plan. He met Zoe and Frank Sullivan at Brew and Banter just after dawn. The coffee shop's cozy brick walls a temporary refuge from the town's hostility. Zoe, her red curls tied back, was practically vibrating with excitement as she leaned over a table cluttered with coffee mugs and donut crumbs. All right, listen up, Zoe said, her green eyes gleaming. I tracked down Jimmy, a regular at Moonlit Tap. He was there the night Tara claims she and you, got busy. Says you were so drunk you could barely stand, and Tara dragged you out like a sack of potatoes. Nothing happened, Michael. Jimmy's willing to back you up. Michael's shoulders sagged with relief, but his jaw stayed tight. That's huge, Zoe. But will the town believe him? They've got me pegged as the bad guy. Frank, polishing a mug behind the counter, chimed in. Jimmy's a straight shooter, known around here for years. Folks'll listen. But you've got bigger problems. That email to the town council about buying the lakefront? I had a buddy in IT look at it. Looks like it was sent from a hacked account, not yours. Smells like someone's setting you up. Michael's mind raced, the pieces clicking together. The financial scandal at Horizon Tech, the sudden email painting him as a land grabber. It wasn't a coincidence. A rival in Seattle, maybe that snake of a VP who'd been gunning for his job, could be pulling strings to sabotage him. But right now, Willow Creek was the priority. So, we've got proof Tara lied, and the email's fake, he said, his voice steadying. How do we get the town to hear it? Zoe grinned, a glint of mischief in her eyes. The festival's closing ceremony tonight. Everyone'll be there. Edna, the council, the whole damn town. You get on that stage, tell your story, and let Jimmy back you up. Tara won't know what hit her. Frank nodded, his gray beard twitching with a rare smile. Bold move, city boy. You pull this off, you might just change some minds, including Lila's. Lila. The thought of her hurt, her strength, lit a fire in Michael's chest. He'd lost her trust, but he wasn't ready to lose her. Let's do it, he said, his resolve hardening. For her. The day passed in a blur of preparation. Zoe rallied Jimmy, a burly mechanic with a no-nonsense vibe, to confirm his story. Frank dug deeper into the email, tracing it to a suspicious IP address that screamed corporate foul play. Michael, meanwhile, wrestled with his own demons. His phone buzzed relentlessly with emails from Seattle. Board's voting tomorrow. You're out if you're not here. The scandal was closing in, but Willow Creek felt like the real fight. For the first time, he wasn't just chasing success. He was chasing something that mattered more. As dusk fell, the festival reached its peak. The main stage, draped in fairy lights, drew a crowd of hundreds, their faces glowing under the harvest moon. Caleb Reed strummed a soulful tune, his guitar weaving a spell over the audience. Michael stood backstage, his heart pounding like a drum. His blazer was gone, replaced by a borrowed flannel shirt from Frank, a small gesture to blend in, though he still felt like an outsider. Zoe gave him a thumbs up, Jimmy at her side, while Frank watched from the crowd, arms crossed, but hopeful. Edna Walsh took the stage first, her silver hair glinting as she addressed the town. We've gathered to celebrate our home, she said, her voice carrying authority. But we face a threat, a man who'd buy our land, our soul for profit. Michael Carter, we see you. The crowd roared, banners waving. Keep Willow Creek ours. Michael's stomach twisted, but he held his ground. When Edna stepped down, Michael seized his moment. He climbed the stage, the spotlight blinding, every eye on him like a jury. His voice wavered at first, then steadied, raw and real. I'm not who you think I am, he began, gripping the mic. I'm not here to buy your land or ruin your town. I took the wrong train, that's all. I grew up dirt poor in Seattle, scraping by, just like a lot of you. I built something from nothing, but it's empty without people who matter. People like you, like Lila. The crowd murmured, some skeptical, others intrigued. Michael pressed on, his voice rising. You've heard lies about me buying the lakefront, about me and Tara Brooks. The email to your council? It's fake, sent by someone trying to bury me. And Tara's story? It's a fabrication. I was drunk, passed out, nothing more. Jimmy here can tell you. Jimmy stepped forward, his deep voice cutting through the tension. Saw it myself at Moonlit Tap. Tara dragged him out, but he was out cold. Ain't no way anything happened. The crowd shifted, whispers rippling. Michael took a breath, his eyes scanning for Lila. He spotted her near the back, her turquoise turban a beacon in the sea of faces. Her expression was unreadable, but she was listening. "I'm not asking for your trust," he said, his voice softening. "I'm asking for a chance to show you I'm not your enemy. I love this town, its heart, its fight. I'm pledging to fund a cultural preservation project, to keep Willow Creek yours. And I'm staying, not because of money, but because of her." He pointed to Lila, his voice breaking. "She's worth it." The crowd fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Then a few clapped, tentative at first, then stronger. Not everyone. Edna's scowl was fierce, but the tide was turning. Lila's eyes glistened, her hands clasped tight. She took a step forward, then another, her resolve breaking through her doubt. Tara Brooks, standing near the stage, saw her plan unraveling. She pushed forward, her voice shrill. "He's lying! He was all over me and he's just covering his tracks!" But her desperation was obvious, her story cracking under scrutiny. Jimmy shook his head, stepping to the mic. "Tara, I saw you. You hauled him out like a rag doll. Quit the act," the crowd murmured, heads turning toward Tara, who flushed red, her confidence crumbling. Zoe, never one to miss a moment, jumped in. "Come on, Tara, spill the real tea. You made it all up, didn't you?" Her grin was wicked, and the crowd chuckled, the tension easing. Tara stammered, her eyes darting. "You don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. But the boos started, soft at first, then louder. She fled the stage, her heels clicking, her exit a mix of shame and defiance. A fleeting glance back hinted at something, regret maybe. But she was gone, leaving her lie exposed. Lila couldn't stay still any longer. She pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding, and climbed the stage. The festival lights framed her, her turban glowing like a crown. Without a word, she threw her arms around Michael, burying her face in his chest. The crowd gasped, then cheered, the sound swelling like a wave. Michael held her tight, his breath catching as her warmth grounded him. "I'm sorry," Lila whispered, her voice muffled against his shirt. "I let the whispers blind me. I should have trusted you." Michael cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You're here now. That's all I need." The embrace was electric, a moment of triumph over the town's prejudice and Tara's lies. The crowd's cheers faded to a hum, the world narrowing to just them. Caleb's guitar struck a new chord, a hopeful melody that carried their moment into the night. As they stepped off the stage, hands entwined, the festival felt different. Lighter, like the moon had broken through the clouds. Frank clapped Michael on the shoulder, his grin wide. "Not bad, city boy. You might just belong here." Zoe hugged Lila, whispering, "Told you he was a keeper." Lila laughed, her eyes shining, the weight of the past days lifting. But the victory wasn't complete. Michael's phone buzzed in his pocket, a reminder of the Seattle scandal waiting to swallow him. And while Tara was gone, the town's trust was still fragile, Edna's scowl a sign of work left to do. Yet, with Lila by his side, Michael felt ready for anything. They slipped away from the crowd, walking toward the lake where the festival's lights reflected like stars. The air was cool, the scent of pine and water calming. Lila's hand was warm in his, her presence a tether to something real. "You meant what you said up there?" she asked, her voice soft. "About staying?" "Every word," Michael said, turning to face her. "I don't know what's next, but I know I want you in it." Lila's smile was radiant, but a raindrop splattered on her cheek, then another. The sky opened, a sudden downpour soaking them. She laughed, grabbing his hand. "Come on, I know a place." They ran through the rain, their laughter echoing, until they reached a small cabin by the lake. Lila's painting retreat. Inside, the oil lamp flickered, the storm raging outside. Their clothes clung to them, the air charged with unspoken need. Lila's eyes met his, fierce and unguarded. "I was wrong not to trust you," she said, stepping closer, her voice a whisper. Michael's fingers grazed her cheek, his heart racing. "All I want is you, Lila." Their kiss was a spark, igniting a fire that burned away the doubts. Clothes fell away, and in the heat of their embrace, they found forgiveness, a connection deeper than words. The cabin, the rain, the world, it all faded, leaving only them. As the storm raged on, Michael knew this was just the beginning. Willow Creek, Lila, the truth, they were worth fighting for. But Seattle was calling, and the hardest battles were still ahead. The Harvest Moon Festival had ended, but its glow lingered in Willow Creek, Oregon, like a promise kept. The cobblestone streets, once tense with suspicion, now hummed with a quieter energy, the lanterns dimmed but not forgotten. The scent of apple pie and wood smoke still drifted from the bakery, and the golden oaks stood sentinel, their leaves carpeting the town in autumn's embrace. For Michael Carter, the Seattle CEO who'd stumbled into this small town on the wrong train, Willow Creek was no longer a detour. It was a home he hadn't known he needed. The battle for truth, for Lila Jackson, for a place among these wary locals, had changed him. And as the festival's final echoes faded, he stood on the cusp of something new, something real. The morning after Michael's bold stand at the festival's closing ceremony, Willow Creek felt different. His speech, bearing his humble roots, debunking Tara Brooks's lie, and pledging to fund a cultural preservation project, had cracked the town's wall of distrust. Not everyone was convinced. Edna Walsh's scowl had lingered as she left the stage. But the tide had turned, and the cheers that followed Lila's embrace of Michael under the festival lights were proof. The town wasn't his yet, but it was listening. Michael woke in his room at the Willow Inn, the floral curtains letting in slants of sunlight. His phone was silent for once. No urgent emails, no panicked texts from his CFO. The board meeting in Seattle was hours away, a crisis he'd have to face soon. But for now, he let himself breathe, the memory of Lila's arms around him grounding him like an anchor. Her trust, hard-won after days of rumors and prejudice, was worth more than any deal he'd ever closed. He headed to Brew and Banter, where Frank Sullivan was already behind the counter, his gray beard catching the morning light. The coffee shop was bustling, locals chatting over muffins and steaming mugs. Frank slid a coffee toward Michael, his usual gruffness softened by a rare grin. "Well, city boy, you stirred up a hornet's nest last night. Folks are still talking about your big speech." Michael sipped the coffee, its bitterness a familiar comfort. "Good talk or bad talk?" "Bit of both," Frank said, wiping down the counter. "Edna's still grumbling, but most people are coming around. That stunt with Jimmy and Zoe knocked Tara's lie flat. You might just stick around after all." Michael's lips twitched. "That the closest I'll get to a compliment from you?" Frank chuckled, tossing his rag over his shoulder. "Don't push it. But Lila's smiling again, so you're doing something right." Lila. The thought of her sent a warmth through Michael, chasing away the chill of Seattle's looming scandal. He'd meant every word on that stage, about staying, about her. But words were easy. Proving it, in a town still healing from its scars, was the real test. As if on cue, Edna Walsh shuffled into the shop, her silver hair pulled tight, a basket of apples in her arms. Her eyes locked on Michael, and for a moment he braced for another lecture. But instead she set the basket on the counter and pushed a foil-wrapped dish toward him. "Apple pie," she said gruffly. "Made it myself. Call it my sorry for thinking you were some corporate spy." Michael blinked, caught off guard. Thanks, Edna. This means a lot." She waved a hand, her scowl softening just a fraction. "Don't get cocky. You're still on probation. But you're not the worst city fella we've had." She turned to Frank, muttering about coffee, leaving Michael stunned. Frank smirked. That's as close to a love letter as you'll get from her. Better eat that pie before she changes her mind. Michael laughed, the sound freer than it had been in days. He grabbed the pie and headed out, the festival's aftermath still visible in the streets, stray streamers, empty cider cups, a few lingering booths. The town was moving on, and maybe, just maybe, it was starting to make room for him. At Pages and Soul, Lila was rearranging her book display, her turquoise turban swapped for a vibrant orange one that glowed against her dark skin. Aretha Franklin's voice floated from the shop's speakers, a soulful backdrop to her work. She looked up as Michael entered, her smile cautious but genuine, a far cry from the guarded wall she'd put up yesterday. "Morning, city boy," she said, setting down a stack of books. "Heard you're the talk of the town. Edna giving you pie? That's basically a knighthood around here." Michael held up the dish, grinning. "Yeah, I'm practically royalty now. You want a slice? I'm not sure I trust myself to cut it without disaster." Lila laughed, the sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Oh, I've seen you with a ring toss. Let's not tempt fate." She gestured to a small table in the corner, where a kettle and 2 mugs waited. "Tea instead? We need to talk." Michael's stomach fluttered, but he nodded, following her. They sat, the steam from the chamomile tea curling between them. Lila's eyes were steady, searching his. "Last night," she began, "what you did up there, it took guts. I was wrong to shut you out, Michael. I let the town's noise get in my head." He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing hers. "I get it, Lila. They were coming for you too. Those whispers, about you, about us, they weren't just gossip. They were cruel." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't pull away. "Yeah, being the black woman cozying up to the rich guy? That's a target on my back. I've fought that kind of judgment before in Portland. Thought I'd left it behind." She sighed, her voice softening. "But you didn't run. You stood up there for me, for this town. That means something." Michael's chest ached, her words a lifeline. "I meant it, Lila. I'm not going anywhere. Seattle, the company, it's my past. You're my future." Her smile was slow, radiant, but a flicker of doubt lingered. "You say that now, but your world's calling. I saw your phone lighting up yesterday. What happens when you have to go back?" He squeezed her hand, his voice firm. "I'll figure it out. I'm not losing you, not after all this." Lila studied him, then nodded, a spark of trust reigniting. "All right, city boy, but you're on thin ice. One wrong move, and I'm dumping you in the lake." He laughed, the tension easing. "Deal, but only if you teach me how to cut this pie first." Their laughter filled the shop, a moment of lightness in a week of storms. But the real test came that evening, when Michael and Lila decided to cook dinner together at her apartment above Pages and Soul. The festival was over, but its spirit lingered, and they wanted a quiet night to rebuild what the rumors had torn apart. Lila's apartment was a reflection of her. Colorful, soulful, alive. Bookshelves lined the walls, interspersed with vinyl records and abstract art. A record player spun Nina Simone, her voice weaving through the air as Lila chopped vegetables in the small kitchen. Michael, tasked with stirring a pot of curry, was predictably clumsy, splashing sauce on his borrowed flannel. "You're a hazard," Lila teased, nudging him aside. "Stick to tech deals, not cooking." "Hey, I'm trying," Michael protested, wiping his hands on a towel. "This is my first curry. Give me some credit." She grinned, her orange turban catching the kitchen's warm light. "Credit for effort, maybe. But if you burn my kitchen down, you're buying me a new one." Their banter flowed, easy and warm, as they finished the meal. They sat at her tiny table, the curry's spices mingling with the cozy glow of candles. Over dinner, they talked, really talked, about their pasts, their fears, their dreams. Michael shared stories of his childhood, scraping by in Seattle's roughest corners, driven by a hunger to prove himself. Lila opened up about Portland, the subtle racism that wore her down, and her choice to build a new life in Willow Creek. "I thought this town was my safe haven," she said, her voice soft. "But those whispers, they reminded me how fast people judge." Michael reached for her hand, his thumb tracing her knuckles. "They're wrong about you, Lila. You're the heart of this place, and I'm not letting anyone dim that." Her eyes shone, a mix of gratitude and something deeper. "You're not so bad yourself, city boy, for a guy who can't cook." He laughed, the sound free, unburdened. As they cleared the dishes, the air shifted, charged with unspoken possibility. Lila leaned against the counter, her eyes daring and warm, the candlelight dancing across her skin. Michael stepped closer, his hand brushing her waist, her heat seeping through her dress. "You keep looking at me like that," she murmured, her voice low, "and we're not going to finish cleaning up." "Who needs clean dishes?" Michael said, his voice husky. He closed the gap, their lips meeting in a kiss that was fierce, a vow unspoken. Nina Simone's voice swelled, a perfect underscore to their urgency. Lila's hand slid under his shirt, her touch igniting him. She led him upstairs, her laughter mingling with quickened breaths, the stairs creaking under their steps. In her moonlit bedroom, they shed their clothes, the world falling away. Their bodies moved in sync, each touch a promise, a reclamation of trust. Lila's strength, her fire, matched his, their connection deeper than words could capture. Under the silver light, they were whole, unbound by the town's doubts or Seattle's demands. As they lay tangled in the sheets, the festival's distant memory a soft hum, Michael traced patterns on Lila's back. "I'm staying," he whispered. "For you. For this." She nestled closer, her voice sleepy but sure. "You better, city boy. I'm not done with you yet." The next day, Willow Creek began to heal. Locals stopped by Pages and Soul, offering apologies to Lila and cautious nods to Michael. Edna, in a rare moment of warmth, invited them to a community potluck, muttering, "Don't make me regret this." Michael, true to form, fumbled a pie slice at the event, dropping it on his shirt to Lila's delight. "You're the most adorable disaster I've ever met," she teased, her laughter a melody. Tara Brooks, meanwhile, had left town, her bags packed for a vague new start in Portland. A brief glimpse of her at the bus station, flipping through a self-help book, hinted at a flicker of change, a chance she might rethink her ways. Willow Creek didn't miss her drama, but it wished her well in its own quiet way. Michael made a choice that shocked his Seattle team. He scaled back his role at Horizon Tech, delegating to his CFO and working remotely from Willow Creek. The scandal was still a fight, but he faced it with a new clarity, fueled by Lila's presence. He funded the Pages and Soul Library, a community hub for books and culture, cementing his place in the town's heart. Lila, inspired, pushed forward with her book on local history, her passion reignited by Michael's belief in her. One evening, they sat by the lake, the same spot where rain had driven them to the cabin. The stars glittered above, the water a mirror of light. "You've got a lot to learn about small-town life," Lila said, her hand in his. "Good thing I've got forever to learn," Michael replied, his eyes on her. "As long as you're with me." Their story wasn't perfect. No story is. Seattle's shadows lingered, and Willow Creek's trust would take time. But Michael and Lila had found something rare, a love built on truth, forged through fire, strong enough to face whatever came next. The wrong train had led them here, to a beginning neither had expected, but both would fight to keep. Thanks for riding along with Michael and Lila's journey. If their tale of love and breaking barriers touched you, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and share your thoughts below. Ever been lost and found something precious? Spill the tea in the comments. We'd love to hear your story.